Now, although this review may sound very repetitive in its entirety, this is what happens when almost the whole team is released in the same wave, which kind of gives you the vibe of how no one's unique and everyone just has something extra to differentiate themselves from the crowd. Hello everyone, this is KID, I'm the man, bringing you all another figure review of the Hasbro's Power Rangers Lightning Collection Ninjetti Wave 2 figures, or the Wave 2 Ninja Rangers. First off, this is going to be another unscripted review. The reason for that is because I am basically playing catch up with the UK as of right now, or maybe even America as this video comes up. Now the main reason why I'm playing catch up is because I was on holiday. Come on, give me a break. Now I believe these figures arrived in Malaysia the exact same time as when the UK got their sets as well. So by that time I was already on my way to the airport to catch my flight for a long awaited vacation. Once I got back, I went to my dealer's shop as soon as possible and picked this set up. So without further ado, let's take a closer look at these three Ninjetti Rangers, or Ninja Rangers, whichever you prefer. First things first, let's get the most obvious thing about these figures out of the way. The painting and the molding of these figures are amazing. However, seeing as they are using the exact same mold as the existing Ninjetti Ranger figures, there won't be many differences to talk about. So if you have the Wave 1 Ninjetti figures, if you take a closer look at them, you can see that the molding of them are exactly the same down to the creases that you can see on the Ninjetti suits. The only thing that's different would be the accessories that they come with, the civilian heads, and possibly the molding of the bandana of their mummy form, and not to mention their ninja coin crests at the center of the figure. But other than that, they are pretty good figures overall, which is to be expected when you're looking at a set of Rangers that come from the same team. You potentially get the exact same molding, but in a different color. The molding on Rocky's mummified head is molded nicely, and the details of the necessary areas are nicely printed on. That would include the eyes of the figure, as well as the diamond forehead. The torso of the figure is nicely molded on as well, with some minor paint discrepancies with regards to the gold trim on the side of the vest. Despite it not being as gold as I would like, it's pretty much consistent with the rest of my existing Ninjetti figures. Taking a closer look at the Ninja Ape coin, it's about 90% perfect, as you can see the details on it clearly, but the print on it is not exactly centered. So do take note as this varies between all of the different figures. The diamonds on the wrist cuffs is nicely painted as well, with the smaller diamonds not having the centered white paint in them. This is pretty much the same as with all of the other male Ninjetti Rangers, but it is also understandable, as it is quite small to paint the full colors. Either that or I could be wrong, and the original source material has the smaller diamonds painted in gold. But at least we do get a nice gold trim at the end of the cuffs. The design of the shoulder pad is consistent with the rest of the male Ninjetti Rangers, along with a decent paint job. The waist of the figure has a nice white paint to it, although seeing as the material used for this particular area is made out of a soft rubber, you can expect it to get dirty. So do take note of how you store your particular figure. You have your standard Ninjetti legs nicely molded in red, and you get the same consistent paint job for the leg cuffs too. Of course, all of these paint jobs will vary from figure to figure. The back of the figure is also nicely painted on. The details on the back of the figure is also nicely painted on. As for the bandana of the figure, it has a slight unique charm to it, which we will get to that later. And lastly, you get the exact same lace pattern at the back of the wrist cuffs and boot cuffs. He comes with fists, signature posing hand, a punching effect piece, a masked head, and an unmasked head. The hooded head itself is nicely molded and painted. You can clearly see that there are no paint discrepancies on my particular copy. The pattern of the bandana is nicely painted. You can also see some seam lines on the bandana as well. If you take a closer look, you will also notice his hair slightly appearing behind or underneath that particular hood. Last but not least, the eyebrows are nicely painted on, as well as the eyes, which are perfectly positioned and looking straight into your soul. As for the unmasked head, you get another handsome rocky face. This time, however, you can see the pattern of his particular hairstyle, which has a nice side parting. The bandana on his head is consistent with the hooded one. And of course, you still have his beautiful eyebrows along with his beautiful eyes, in which I'm sure you won't get sick of looking at it for a whole day. As for Aisha, she looks pretty good. Now, if you remember from my previous video, I have mentioned that with the creation of the Ninjetti Pink Ranger, we would be getting a preview of what the female body mold would look like. And I was correct, because Aisha here is using the exact same mold as the Ninjetti Pink Ranger, the Kimberly version. The ninja head sculpt of the figure is exactly the same, only this time, however, we do see the skin color surrounding the eyes. Just to let you know that Aisha is actually behind that mask. The diamond on the forehead is consistent with the other Ninjetti Rangers, similarly with the rubber torso vest. I have taken a closer look and a closer comparison with the other two female body modes, and they are both exactly the same. The only difference here would be the Ninja Bear Zord coin. Now, when I was at my dealer shop, I had the opportunity to choose the best version of Aisha from all of their existing sets. And I gotta say, the Bear Power coin on all of the other Aisha sets were not actually that good looking. If you notice, the coin on mine is not exactly a perfect circle, but it does look like that the circle is melting. The other versions of Aisha had it much worse than what I have right now. So hopefully you won't be facing that particular QC issue. The diamonds on the wrist cuff and boot cuffs are consistent throughout the rest of the figure. That also includes the gold trim at both ends. However, if you notice the boot cuffs on mine, they do have a little bit of scratches. So this basically is proof that you will get some paint discrepancies depending on which copy you have. I just opted for the one with the better power coin symbol. As for the so-called skirt of the figure, it's still missing some white paint. You can check on some online images to understand what I'm actually referring to. The gold trim at the end of the vest is nicely painted on, plus the diamonds on the shoulder pads are nicely molded on as well. So I'm glad there are no errors in that department. You still get the consistent shoelace pattern for both the arm cuffs and the leg cuffs, and she also comes with her own unique bandana design, if the color yellow isn't enough for you to differentiate them apart. Aisha comes with fists, karate chop hands, a karate chop effect piece, her hooded head, and the unmasked head. For the hooded head, it's an entirely new mold. If you look closely enough, you can kind of see how this Aisha head is actually kind of giving you a raised eyebrow look. Just by taking a closer look at the eyebrows itself, you can see that they are a bit uneven. So I'm not sure if this is intentional or my particular copy has an eyebrow paint error. The bandana design is consistent with Rocky's bandana, with the particular seam lines along with the diamond on the forehead. And again, if you take a closer look underneath that hood, you would be able to see a little bit of a hair. For the unmasked head, it looks pretty good, but not as good as the other Aisha head that we have gotten before. For this particular copy of mine, I'm not sure if she actually does look like Aisha, or she just looks a little bit older in this particular sculpt. It could be due to the paint job on my right eye, as you can see how a little bit of white paint has bled over on the right eyelid. But if you put that aside, you can see that the bandana is nicely sculpted on as well, and who could ignore the lovely hair on this particular head. You can see that this Aisha head is still rocking that classic dreadlocks look. As for Katherine, there is a slight difference as compared to Kimberly. If you take a closer look into the eyes, you will see that the eye color of Katherine's hooded head is actually painted in blue, which is quite consistent with the other Katherine heads accessories that we've seen so far. So at least you can differentiate which head belongs to which particular character. The torso of the figure is your standard female Ninjetti torso. The crane power coin is nicely printed on in the center of the chest. And for my particular copy, there is a tiny bit of gold paint splotch on the left hand side. You get the exact same wrist cuffs and boot cuffs as you have seen from both Aisha and Kimberly, but what would make them unique would be, you guessed it, the paint discrepancies. Taking a closer look at the shoulder pads, mine does look a bit off. Same front skirts, still missing the white paint though. She also has a pair of nice thick thighs, but that's mostly due to how bulky the suit actually looks. So no, she doesn't actually have thick thighs. You get the same standard look for the back of the figure, and there isn't much of a unique bandana design. You all should know that this is the exact same figure, right? However, I do have one particular gripe though, is that when I took Katherine out of the box, she was packed so tightly in her plastic wrap that it made her left arm loose. This basically is preventing me from using the arm joint. So I really do hope that your copy of Kat isn't facing the same issue. Katherine comes with fists, karate chop hand, a crane claw posing hand, a sweeping kick effect piece, her hooded head, and her unmasked head. Taking a closer look at her hooded head, it looks a bit weird. Just from first impressions, I kind of feel that she has a slightly bit bigger forehead, as the gap between the bandana and the eyebrows does look a bit bigger as compared to the other hooded heads we've seen. The molding of the hooded head aside, you can see that the eyes of this particular hooded head is consistent with the other types of Katherine eyes. Not to mention, you can still see her blonde hair coming out of that gap in between the bandana and the hood. As for her civilian head, she looks pretty. The molding of this particular civilian head is nicely done, although the paint on the lower lip is a little bit off, making it look like her lips are slanting towards the right. The design of the bandana on the head is also consistent with the particular seam lines and diamond. Last but not least, we also get her nice wavy blonde hair. I don't know about you, but this could be the best Katherine head sculpt that we've seen. All that's left is for us to see Katherine from the Turbo season. Is anyone looking forward to that? Or are we expecting Cassie to be Turbo Pink? Or are we going to have a similar Ninjetti Pink situation? So now that you've seen the figures from both Wave 1 and Wave 2 in detail, how about we zoom in to see whether are there any type of differences between all of these Ninjetti male figures. Paint details aside, I actually did find one particular type of differences between all of these particular figures. It's kind of a stretch, no pun intended, but it is due to the shape of the bandana from the rubber in which it was made from. Now at first glance, when you're looking at these particular bandanas, it's easy to think that they are actually different type of molds. But because of the nature of the bandana being a soft rubber plastic, they could be deformed right out of the box. And in reality, if you take a closer look at these particular creases, you can see that they are exactly the same, give or take some minor discrepancies. If we take a closer look at black and blue, we can see that at the end of the bandanas, they're actually the same shape. But again, due to the nature of the rubber that they are molded in, they are set differently. However, they are practically the same bandana. But if you take a closer look at Tommy's bandana, it's slightly a bit more different. What I'm talking about is that the left hand side of the strap is that it doesn't have a sharp end tip. Perhaps this could be a factory defect of mine out of the box, but at least there is some kind of uniqueness to this particular bandana. Now if we take a closer look at Rocky's bandana, although the positioning is slightly a bit different, it's practically the same mold. So if you really do want to give some uniqueness to this particular figure, and since that this material is made of a soft rubber plastic, you can reposition it just by running the bandana in hot water, put it in a position that you like, and then run some cold water on it. So that way, that new position would set, and you got yourself a unique figure. Like I said, it's a bit of a stretch. Just like the other male Ninjetti Rangers, there is an ab crunch for this particular figure. However, again, with the exact same issues as the other male Ninjetti Rangers, you can't really give this figure a proper ab crunch. At least I can't, but maybe you can try. As I said before, this particular ab crunch is most prevalent in Marvel Legends figures, like we see here on this retro armored spider Mark I figure. But because of the existing barbell joint on the waist, I'm sure you can get the exact same posing as with the other Lightning Collection figures. Seeing as these figures are all ninjas, you would expect them to have much more flexibility. And with that flexibility in mind, we have a new hip joint, in which if you want the figure to kick further, all you have to do is reposition the hinge joint at the hip, and then you're good to go. Just like most of the Figure-rise standard figures, like my Tada Joel, it has the ability to extend its hip, just so you can get some nice dynamic poses. Not many people are used to this type of articulation on the Lightning collection, but this is a step up in allowing more articulation for action figures. If I had the ability to improve on this particular Ninjetti design, is that I would minimize the creases on the upper thigh joints. The reason why the upper thigh joints are there is just so you can have more articulation. This works for the standard Lightning collection figures is because it's quite seamless. Because there are existing creases on these particular suits, it really breaks the illusion of these figures. So in the event if Hasbro does make a version 2 of these Ninjetti suits, I hope they find a way to fix this particular design. Now the same thing can be said for the female Ninjetti figures. Other than the different printing of the power coin, the generic shape of the bandanas of these hooded heads are exactly the same, and that the positioning of the bandanas is affected by how the figure was placed in the box. But one thing that still perplexes me is that the shape of the bear power coin on Aisha is not exactly a circular shape, but in a more melted oval type of shape. Again, it still could be due to the initial first batch of these Aisha figures that would have these errors, but really do try to hunt for these figures in person so that way you can pick out the best one out of the bunch. Another thing that's a bit disappointing about this Wave 2 set is that the effect piece that they come with is exactly the same effect piece that we've gotten from Wave 1. Now I can't remember exactly which effect piece came with who, but if you were to gather all of your effect pieces together that came with the Ninjetti sets, you can clearly see what I mean. Now although they might be in a slightly different shade of white, I'm just honestly disappointed that Hasbro did not make any new molds for the effect pieces for these ninjas. Because being a Hasbro Pulse exclusive, they really do deserve it. But that's just me. They are a different shade of color though. It's almost the same shade of color if you were to watch a not safe for work video. Now other than the negatives that you have heard throughout this entire review, there still is one very good thing about the Ninjetti figures. Is that with all of the different alternate accessories that they come with, you can basically have yourself a mix match of different looking ninjas. So that way you can literally spice up how your display will look. You can either have the classic movie Ninjetti Rangers, either in the masked or unmasked look. You can even have them in their hooded look as how they look like in Season 3. Or you can even make your own combo, like what I did with Rocky and Aisha, by using the turtleneck looking accessory to make them look like a very cool ninja. Because if South Park has taught us anything, ninjas are cool, and not the other thing that they've mentioned in that particular episode. Oh well, so here they are, another completed Ranger team. What will they complete next? Here they are next to the previously reviewed Figure-rise Standard Kamen Rider O's Tada Joe combo, the leaked Lightning Collection figure, Wild Force Blue Ranger, the Dino Fury Green Basic figure, the Legacy Collection Cenozoic Black Ranger, and Decade. So all in all, the Ninja Wave 2 is pretty great. Again, despite all of the negativity that I have mentioned throughout this entire review, they can pretty much be chalked up to nitpicking. So that is mostly just on me. But other than that, I'm glad that we were able to receive this set in just less than a year to complete the team, unlike what happened with the Metallic Armor Rangers, where you would have to wait for almost more than an entire year just to get the remaining 4 members, and then a couple of months after that, you finally get the final piece of the puzzle. So if you are a big fan of the Power Rangers movie, or if you're a big fan of Season 3 Mighty Morphin, or even if you're a fan of ninjas, you should definitely pick these guys up. They definitely bring back some childhood nostalgia. Plus, I really do think they look good on the shelf. So if you like this video, blast that like button, leave a comment down below, let me know what you think of this Ninjetti Wave 2 sets. Share this video with your friends and family to let them know that this set is out there somewhere depending on where you're from, and feel free to subscribe, as it would very much help the channel. I got some very good stuff coming up soon, so hit the bell to be notified on that. This is KID, I'm the man, and I'll see you all next time.